What if the very act of searching for proof is the very thing that keeps your miracle just out of reach? I want you to imagine this. You are standing before a canvas, brush in hand, the colors still wet, the image only beginning to take form. Would you call in an audience to judge the work now, while the strokes are unfinished and the vision still breathing in your mind? Or would you trust what you see within, letting the world catch up only when the masterpiece is complete? This is where so many lose themselves, not in the act of creation, but in the restless craving to see results before they are ripe. Neville Goddard taught that the moment you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, it is already a fact in the unseen. Not becoming a fact, not on the way, but already sealed in the invisible realm where all creation begins. Yet the trap is subtle. You assume the state for a moment, you feel it is real, and then your eyes return to the outside world, scanning for a sign, for proof. In that moment, you step out of the new reality and back into the old, as if a master painter abandoned the vision to measure the work against a half-painted canvas. This habit keeps you circling, never allowing the inner to solidify before the outer has a chance to respond. You already know the feeling, the high that comes when you see a small sign, a coincidence, maybe it's working moment. Your heart leaps, dopamine rushes through your body, and for a brief moment you believe. But soon, when the full picture isn't there yet, the doubt creeps back in. Faith and doubt play a tug-of-war inside you, and the masterpiece is left unattended. This is not because you are failing, but because your attention is still trained on the wrong gallery, the one outside, instead of the living gallery of your inner world. Joe Dispenza calls this wiring and firing. Your brain begins to create new pathways only when you consistently feel the end as if it's here now, regardless of what your senses report. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between a reality you see with your eyes and one you hold so vividly in feeling that your body believes it has already happened. The outer world is slow to catch up, but the inner world can change in an instant, and when the inner changes, the outer has no choice but to follow. So in this space, for the time we are together, I'm inviting you to stop looking for the seed to sprout while you are still planting it, to stop opening the oven while the bread is still rising, to stop asking the mirror to change before you shift your own stance. In this moment, we will step into a way of being that is unmoved, unshaken, untempted to check. You are not waiting for your reality to confirm your state. You are letting your state dictate your reality, and by the end of this journey together, you will see why you have already won, long before the proof appears in front of you. The only fight is with your old awareness. You may think your struggle is with the people who doubt you, with the bills that arrive, with the obstacles that keep appearing in your path, but these are only shadows, cast by the light of a deeper reality, your own awareness. Neville Goddard warned that the world is nothing but a mirror, and the fight is never with the reflection. The only true battle is between who you have been and who you now dare to be. It is the quiet yet relentless work of releasing the grip of the old man, that familiar identity that repeats the same patterns, clings to the same fears, and assumes the same limitations. Every time you rise in the morning and look around as the same person who struggled yesterday, you are feeding that old self. And yet, the new you, the one already living your desire, exists right here, like a seed pressing against the soil, asking only for the warmth of your acceptance. Circumstances do not have the power to hold you. They are only the ripples of a belief that is ready to dissolve. When you stop reacting to the old story as if it still has authority, you starve it, and what is starved will fade. This fight is not noisy. It is not about force. It is the quiet choice, made moment after moment, to favor the inner truth over the outer appearance. It is looking into the mirror and knowing that what you see is temporary, that your true self lives beyond that glass. It is hearing the same old doubt whisper in your mind and choosing to let it pass like wind that cannot move a mountain. And each time you do, the old man loses his voice, and the new awareness, the one aligned with your fulfilled desire, takes root more deeply. You are not battling the world. You are refining the lens through which the world appears. And when that lens clears, everything you once thought was against you will simply shift into place, as if it had been waiting for your recognition all along. There is a quiet sabotage that happens when your mind drifts between two worlds, the world where your desire is already here, and the world where you fear it never will be. Every time you shift from one to the other, you reset the journey, as if a navigator kept changing the destination mid-route. The energy that was building loses its momentum, and the creation that was forming must start again from where you left it. This is why so many feel as though they are almost there for years. They keep uprooting the vision before it has matured. The mind hungers for novelty, for the reassurance of progress, but manifestation is not about chasing new signals from the outside. It is about holding one scene, one state, with unwavering faith until it becomes so familiar that your body forgets it was ever a desire and accepts it as reality. Neville spoke often of dwelling in the end, not just visiting it when it feels comfortable. The moment you let your attention wander to what is instead of what is true within, you allow the outer illusion to reclaim your energy. Imagine a single, vivid scene, one that perfectly captures the essence of your fulfilled desire. Not 100 images, not a dozen scenarios, but one moment frozen in time that tells the entire story. Maybe it is the quiet weight of a pen in your hand as you sign the papers for the home that is yours. Maybe it is the way someone you love looks at you with the recognition that you have already become the person you always knew you were. This scene is your anchor. You return to it not out of effort, but out of devotion. The way a lover's mind returns to the thought of the beloved without needing to be reminded. The scattered focus keeps you in motion without arrival. The anchored focus brings the destination to you. And when that scene becomes more real in your inner world than the facts in front of you, the outer must conform, for it has no power to resist what has already been accepted within. When you look to the path of another to measure your own, you step out of the authority of your state and into the chaos of someone else's creation. Comparison is not harmless curiosity. It is a subtle shift in vibration, a quiet surrender of your alignment to the rhythm of another's life. And in that moment, your energy no longer speaks with the voice of certainty, but with the hesitation of, am I behind? Am I doing enough? Why hasn't it happened for me yet? The truth is that every journey unfolds with its own invisible timing, determined not by chance or luck, but by the state you inhabit. The outer milestones of another cannot reveal the inner story that brought them there. You see the harvest, but you do not see the seasons of unseen growth. When you compare, you plant seeds of doubt in your own garden, and those seeds grow quickly. Mirror neurons in your brain will begin to imitate the emotions you perceive in others. If they are living in fear, you feel fear. If they are uncertain, you absorb uncertainty. Even if their outer reality looks desirable, the energy behind it may be one you do not want to invite into your own creation. Neville taught that the only mirror worth looking into is the one held by your fulfilled self. Instead of scanning the world for people who seem ahead of you, place your attention on the state of being that already has what you seek. Let that version of you set the standard, not the versions of others whose inner worlds you cannot see. When you live from the identity of your end, you begin to radiate the frequency of your desire without effort. You no longer need to compete, because you understand there is no race. There is only alignment. Comparison whispers that you are lacking. Your fulfilled self whispers that you are already complete. Which voice you feed will determine the reality you live. And when you choose the latter, you will discover that the timelines of others lose their grip on you entirely, because you have anchored yourself in a reality that no one can take from you. There is a subtle hunger that many mistake for faith, the constant desire to see a sign, to get a message, to notice a shift in the outside world. It feels like commitment, but it is often the very thing that delays the manifestation. Each time you look outward for confirmation, you are quietly saying, I do not yet believe this is mine unless the world tells me so. That signal is felt in the unseen, and the reality you are creating remains in suspension, unable to fully materialize. The brain is wired to seek evidence, a flicker of movement in your environment, a coincidence, a word from someone, and dopamine floods your system. It is intoxicating, but it is also deceptive, because the high is temporary. Soon, the absence of more signs feels like a loss, and you return to the old vibration of doubt. This cycle keeps you in a state of checking rather than embodying. Neville's work reminds us that assumption is a quiet certainty. It does not need proof to sustain itself. The moment you require validation, you are stepping back into the role of the seeker instead of the one who already possesses. True creation happens in the silence where no evidence is needed. It is the stillness of a gardener who knows the seed is growing beneath the soil, even though the surface looks unchanged. It is the calm of a sculptor who sees the finished figure inside the stone long before a single piece has been carved away. The discipline is not in watching for progress, but in resting in the knowing that the progress is inevitable. When you release the need for signs, you step into the authority of the one who commands reality. You no longer ask the world to reassure you. You allow the world to catch up to the truth you have already claimed. In that space, proof becomes irrelevant, because the feeling of having it is already complete within you. And when the feeling is complete, the physical must follow, without strain, without searching, and without a single glance over your shoulder to see if it has arrived. Everything you experience in the outer world is the natural outgrowth of the image you hold of yourself. Change the self-concept, and the circumstances rearrange without resistance. Neville made this truth clear again and again. You do not need to attack the branches, for they are only the visible expression of the root. If the branches are bearing fruit you do not desire, it is because the root, your identity, is still feeding them. Most people try to prune the branches instead of transforming the seed. They change actions, chase opportunities, or manipulate external conditions, hoping that a different arrangement on the outside will bring peace on the inside. But the inside is the cause, and until it shifts, the same patterns will bloom again, dressed in different forms. The self-concept you accept as true is like the soil. It determines what can grow, no matter how much effort you exert in the outer garden. Consider the difference between someone who is searching for a job and someone who already knows themselves as hired, valued, and indispensable. The first moves with hesitation, submitting to circumstances, hoping to be chosen. The second moves with an energy that assumes their place is already secured, and life mirrors that certainty in ways that seem almost effortless. The outer event, the job offer, is just the branch. The identity that I am the one who belongs here is the root. When you rise each morning, there is a moment before the mind recalls the past where you can choose the soil of the day. You can rehearse the version of you that already lives the reality you desire, allowing your body to feel its presence before the world has said a word. Over time, this repetition does not just inspire, it rewires. The branches bend, the leaves change, and the fruits that were once bitter are replaced by those that match the sweetness you have claimed at the root. When you live from the end, the world stops being a collection of obstacles and becomes a living sequence of perfectly aligned steps. The outer events may still look fragmented, but from the perspective of the fulfilled state, every piece has meaning. Neville often spoke of viewing the world as a mirror. The glass does not decide the image, it reflects it. To see the reflection you desire, you must already be standing in the vibration of its truth. From the old state, challenges appear as threats. From the end state, they become part of the design. A chess master does not panic when the opponent moves a piece. They see the move as part of a strategy that leads inevitably to victory. In the same way, your fulfilled self already knows the outcome. So every apparent setback is simply one more move, bringing the inevitable closer. The outer may seem unpredictable, but the inner is steady, and it is the inner that shapes the form the outer must take. This shift is subtle, yet absolute. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to know, "This is happening for me." Instead of doubting whether you are on the right path, you understand that the path is being built beneath your feet, with every step you take in alignment with your chosen reality. You stop searching for reassurance because you already see the proof within the very events that once would have discouraged you. When you perceive the world through the end-state lens, you do not need to control every detail, because you know that all details are moving in service to the state you have accepted. This is not blind hope. It is a practiced certainty, cultivated through the daily choice to see life as your ally. And when the world becomes your ally, the journey toward your desire feels less like a struggle and more like an unfolding, one perfect move after another. Thoughts alone do not fasten a new reality into place. It is the emotion behind them, the steady undercurrent of feeling that acts as the adhesive between your inner vision and its outer expression. Neville's words, "Feeling is the secret," are not a poetic suggestion. They are the foundation of creation. You can think of abundance all day, but if the tone you carry is worry or lack, the vibration you emit will contradict the image you are holding. Emotional tone is not the fleeting rush of excitement you feel in a single moment of inspiration. It is the consistent state that hums quietly in the background of your awareness. It is the way your body feels when you are not actively trying to manifest, the natural posture of your heart and mind. This tone tells the unseen whether you truly inhabit the end, or whether you are still a visitor who steps in and out of it depending on the day. Imagine tuning a musical instrument. If the string is even slightly off, the entire piece will sound wrong. In the same way, your emotional tone must be tuned to match the reality you claim, or the notes of your life will play in discord. The body is the perfect gauge for this. Tension, heaviness, or restlessness are signs that the tone has drifted. Lightness, certainty, and quiet confidence are signs that it is aligned. To keep the tone steady, you must return to it not out of force, but as one returns to a familiar rhythm. A midday pause, even for a breath or two, can re-enter you into the emotional frequency of your end. Over time, this tone becomes automatic. It no longer needs to be summoned. It lives in you. And when it lives in you, the outer reality has no choice but to rise and meet the music you have been playing all along. There are moments when the mind grows restless, when the weight of appearances presses in, and you feel the pull to return to old patterns. In those moments, a single line, spoken slowly, felt deeply, can anchor you back into the truth of your state. Scripture, or any sacred phrase that resonates with your inner being, is not meant to be used as a bargaining tool with the universe. It is a key that unlocks the door to the self-concept you have chosen. Be still, and know that I am God. This verse is not a call to passive waiting, but an invitation into the stillness where the outer world loses its hold on you. Stillness is not inactivity. It is a state where your awareness is so rooted in the end that movement in the outer world no longer dictates your inner climate. In that stillness, you are untouchable because you are dwelling in the reality you have already accepted. When a phrase becomes an anchor, it ceases to be mere words. It is no longer a sentence in your mind, it is a vibration in your body, a frequency that instantly recalls you to the truth. Like a lighthouse in fog, it does not need to chase the ships. It simply shines, and in shining, it guides. Each time you return to that anchor, you are rehearsing your chosen identity, not as a wish, but as a certainty. Consider the one who faced financial strain, yet refused to waver from her chosen end. She carried a single scripture with her, speaking it inwardly each time the fear rose. Days, weeks, and months passed, but she did not measure the time. She measured only her alignment. And when the change came, it came not as a surprise, but as the natural outcome of the state she had been living in all along. This is the power of a stabilizer. It keeps you in the seat of creation when the wind tries to move you. Creation requires a certain kind of devotion, the willingness to stay with the vision until it is complete, without the constant urge to step back and question whether it is working. Imagine an artist midway through a painting, pausing every few minutes to invite strangers into the studio for feedback. The vision would scatter, the flow would break, and the final work would never carry the depth it could have had. The same happens in manifestation when you repeatedly interrupt the process to check if it has begun to appear. Neville often spoke of living entirely in the finished work. This means giving yourself to the end state so completely that you forget to measure how far you are from it. It is not indifference, it is immersion. Just as a great painter loses track of time and becomes absorbed in the act itself, you too must lose track of the how and when by being absorbed in the "it is done." The outer world will always take time to reflect what you have claimed within, but the less you demand progress reports, the more fluidly it will unfold. There is a rhythm to creation that cannot be rushed. Seeds sprout in their own season. Music resolves its chords at the right moment, and the brush finds its final stroke only when the image is ready to speak. When you stop checking, you allow the unseen to do its quiet work. You let the colors blend, the form take shape, and the life you have chosen grow into visibility without disturbance. The less you interrupt the process, the more you begin to feel the pleasure of it. You discover that the joy is not only in the finished picture, but in the living intimacy of each stroke, each breath, each silent agreement between you and your creation. And when you look up one day to see it before you, complete and undeniable, you will know it was your unbroken attention that brought it into form. Most people live as if the events of the world dictate their inner state, reacting to each shift in circumstance like a leaf tossed in the wind. In this way of living, the outer world is the master, and the self is merely its subject. But creation begins the moment you reverse that order. When you decide that your inner state is the cause, and the outer is only the effect. Neville taught that you are the operant power, and to live as the creator means to act from the end regardless of appearances, not to wait for the end before you feel it. When you are a reactor, every undesired event becomes a confirmation of fear, lack, or doubt. But when you are a creator, you see these moments as empty forms awaiting the meaning you assign them. The difference lies in the pause. In that pause, you remember your chosen state before you respond. You choose to feel and act from the reality you have already claimed rather than the temporary shadow of what you do not want. This is not suppression, it is mastery. The ability to hold your alignment so firmly that the outer world must yield to it. There are countless instances where this shift has turned the tide. A person receiving unwelcome news could allow panic to take over, and thus invite more of the same. Or they could breathe, recall the inner truth that the outcome is already theirs, and reply from that certainty. In doing so, the energy of the situation changes, and often the result aligns with the inner state they held. The world cannot help but rearrange when you stand unmoved in the assumption of your fulfilled desire. To move from reactor to creator is to take the seat of authority in your own life. It is no longer waiting for permission to feel secure, worthy, or abundant. It is embodying those states now, before the evidence appears. And when you do, you find that the evidence comes not as a miracle from the outside, but as the inevitable reflection of who you have chosen to be all along. Become the unmoved mover. There is a place within you where no circumstance can reach, no opinion can penetrate, no fear can unsettle. It is the still center from which all creation begins. To live from this place is to become what Neville Goddard called the unmoved mover, the one whose inner world shapes the outer, without needing the outer to give permission first. This is not passivity. It is the highest form of power. It is not about turning away from life, but about meeting it from the unshakable knowing that life can only echo the state you hold within. When you understand this, the world stops being a force you have to wrestle with. You no longer chase outcomes, try to bend circumstances to your will, or wait for conditions to change before you feel secure. Instead, you recognize that all outer change is preceded by an inner shift. The reflection in the mirror moves only when you move, not before. To keep polishing the mirror without touching the self is to spend a lifetime adjusting the shadow, never touching the substance. Neville taught that the world is nothing more than your own consciousness objectified. Every event, every encounter, every turn in the road is a mirror showing you the state from which you have been living. When you grasp this, you stop blaming, you stop bargaining, and you stop waiting. Instead, you turn within because you know that changing the reflection is as simple and as profound as changing the image that is casting it. Modern science affirms this ancient truth. Joe Dispenza explains that your brain and body respond to vividly imagined experiences as if they were happening in the physical world. When you repeatedly embody the feelings of your chosen reality, you are not pretending. You are rewiring neural pathways, conditioning your nervous system, and sending coherent signals into the field that surrounds you. Your cells, your hormones, your very chemistry begin to match the reality you are rehearsing. The body learns the new state so well that it becomes your baseline, your default. From there, the outer world has no choice but to conform, because the signal you are sending is unwavering. This is why the practice is not about sporadic bursts of faith followed by long stretches of doubt. It is about cultivating an emotional constancy, living as though it is already done, until the body no longer remembers what it felt like not to have it. When the feeling becomes familiar, when it feels more natural to dwell in the fulfilled state than in the old one, you have crossed the invisible threshold where manifestation becomes inevitable. Consider the image of a seed buried in the soil. You cannot see it. You have no proof that anything is happening. Yet beneath the surface, forces are at work. The seed splits open. Roots begin to stretch downward. A stem starts pushing toward the light. The soil may look the same for days or weeks, but life is moving. To dig it up every morning to check its progress would be to destroy it. The seed does not seek reassurance. It trusts the process it is part of, and that trust is not blind. It is written into its very nature. You too carry that nature. The state you have claimed is already in motion, already drawing to itself the conditions that will make it visible. Your role is not to supervise every detail, but to inhabit the knowing that the details are aligning. The mind that is always checking is the mind that doubts. The mind that knows rests in its claim, and because it rests, the claim has space to grow. The unmoved mover does not ignore the outer world. They see it clearly, but they see it through the lens of the end state. A delay is not a denial. It is part of the choreography. An unexpected turn is not a setback. It is a redirection toward the most direct path. This perspective is not a mental trick. It is the natural vision that comes when you are anchored in the fulfillment of your desire. From here, you do not need to fight the currents. You simply hold your position, and the currents adjust to carry you exactly where you have already decided to be. This requires discipline, but not the kind that exhausts. It is the discipline of remembering. Remembering the feeling of the end when your senses tempt you to react. Remembering who you are when the old self tries to reassert itself. Remembering that reality is not something happening to you, but something happening through you. Each time you return to this remembrance, you strengthen the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Over the next 7 days, I invite you to live this truth without compromise. Wake each morning and step into your chosen state before you touch your phone, before you speak to anyone, before the world has a chance to tell you what kind of day it is. Let your words, your gestures, your decisions be shaped by the reality you have already accepted. When challenges arise, see them as part of the unfolding, not as interruptions. When there is silence, let it affirm your trust, not provoke your doubt. When there is evidence, receive it with gratitude, but do not depend on it to maintain your alignment. This is not about forcing yourself into positivity or denying what you feel. It is about allowing the feeling of fulfillment to be your home, even while life is still rearranging itself around you. It is about walking with the certainty that your inner state is the cause, and the outer world is the effect. And just as you would not beg the echo to sound before speaking, you do not beg the outer to change before you have spoken the change within yourself. The power of the unmoved mover lies in their refusal to be seduced by appearances. They know that the outer world is the slowest part of creation, and so they are patient without waiting, confident without needing proof, active without grasping. They live in the paradox of being fully engaged with life, while remaining utterly detached from how it chooses to bring the desire into form. And because they live in this paradox, they are free. Free from the tyranny of time, free from the pull of doubt, free from the need to control what is already unfolding perfectly. If you can hold this position, not as a strain but as a natural resting place, you will find that reality bends toward you with surprising speed. Opportunities will emerge, doors will open, people will appear, not because you chased them, but because you stood so completely in the state of having that they had no choice but to match you. This is the quiet authority that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to step outside that knowing. So as you close your eyes tonight, let the feeling of your fulfilled desire settle into you as if it has always been here. See it, feel it, let it live in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the way your body rests. And when you wake, do not go looking for it. Rise as the one who already has it. Hold that posture in thought, in emotion, in action, and let the world rise to meet you there. For this is the essence of being the unmoved mover. You do not wait for proof to believe. You believe, and the proof appears as the natural echo of your state. And in that echo, you will recognize not a miracle, but the inevitable outcome of the truth you chose to live.